Welcome to the Successful Home Inspector Podcast, where we discuss everything you need to know about home inspection from A to Z. Brought to you by Preston Sandlin and Home Inspection Carolina. We're here to share some success stories and some not so successful stories. Some things we can all learn from, and maybe, just maybe, we can help each other and raise the profession. So sit back, turn up the volume, and enjoy. Now, here's your host of the Successful Home Inspector Podcast, Preston Sandlin.
Guys, let's face it, Yellow Pages are dead. The old days of calling your company AAA Home Inspection and expecting to get calls from that by being number one on the Yellow Pages don't work anymore. Today, you got to be number one on the search engines. That's Google, Yahoo, Bing, or a couple of others. Billy Borner from St. Louis knows how to do this. He has been number one for quite some time, and it brings him thousands of dollars each month. I've talked to Billy, and he's decided to make this available for you. SEO Secrets. And he normally charges $49 for this instructional video, but for our listeners, we've worked out a deal where it's $39.95. For $39.95, you can bring thousands of dollars to your company each month as well. Go to the homepage, thesuccessfulhomeinspector.com, and look on the tab SEO Secrets. Click on that and go to Billy's link.
All right, listeners, I have a treat for you today. I have a very innovative, smart, savvy home inspector with me today. Will... You just told me.
Misegades.
Thank you, Will. Misegades. I got that. I was like, oh, don't go to. He is from Houston, Texas. He has a big family, and I understand it's growing.
Yes, sir.
In real life and in inspection. I mean, real life family and his inspection family is growing as well. So, Will, how you doing this evening?
I'm doing pretty good now that the kids are in bed and the house is quiet.
Oh, I know. That's a great time. Either like really early in the morning or late at night is when you get your work done, isn't it?
Oh, that's the truth.
I hear you. Well, Will, tell us a little bit more about you because we'd like to get to know you personally.
Sure. Thanks, Preston. So a little bit more about me. So I'm a 34-year-old follower of Christ, married man. I have 3 kids, about to have a 4th one at the end of June, and I'm having a blast living and being an entrepreneur.
Cool. So, Will, not too many of us grew up wanting to be a home inspector. And again, when I was in school, I don't even think that profession existed. So tell me, how did you become a home inspector, and what do you want to be when you grew up?
All right, so I'll start with your last question. So what I wanted to be when I was growing up. Basically, I didn't know what I wanted to do. Actually, I'll give you a quick background on me. I was born and raised in France. A little different. And my parents are missionaries there, and that's how I got over there. But growing up in the French school system, that's very different than over here. Basically, when I was in 6th or 7th grade, we all had to take this test that would help us identify the type of profession that we would later be in. And that would also help us determine the school path that we needed to take. And so it's pretty strict. It's not the best method in my opinion, but basically once they say, okay, you're going to be a doctor, then these are the schools that you have to take, and you can't, basically move away from this path.
Wow.
Being raised by my parents who always told us, you know what, you do what you want to do, and you can change however often you want to change, just finish what you started, then, I was pretty fortunate to have the parents that I have. And so anyway, the results to the test that I got was that I was either going to be a car mechanic or a chiropractor.
Oh, wow.
Go figure. So, but when you think about it, both jobs require manual labor to help fix something that's not working properly.
That's true.
So I was fine with either way. I was always this manual type of guy, and so I would have been happy with either of them. But I ended up building log homes for quite a few years. And so, what? The test really wasn't that far off. So,
cool.
I still don't know what I want to do when I grow up. And I still think I'm a kid in some sort. So, but, as far as becoming a home inspector, I didn't even know what a home inspector was, up to 7 years ago. I got introduced into this world when I bought my first house, and the inspector who performed the inspection, basically he came on site and had his laptop, his portable printer, and he was there for about an hour, hour and a half. At the end, he printed the report right there on site, burnt a CD with a few digital pictures on it. I gave him $350 check, and he went on his merry way, and I bought the house, and I was happy as a lark. And I thought, man, you know what? I could do that. That's pretty easy in my opinion, and I've got the construction background, and so, you know what? Why not try it? And so as I was talking with the inspector, I asked him if he'd be interested in taking me under his wing, and he said, nope, I don't want to train my competition.
Right.
I was like, all right. But so at the time, there were a couple of things going on. So at the time, which was 7-8 years ago, that was right before the market crashed.
Right.
And that was also right before my first child was about to be born. And at the time, I was an export manager for a company based in Finland. And this one day that year, the market, crashed, and I got a call from every single partners that we had throughout Europe, and everybody said that they were quitting the business.
Oh, gosh.
So I literally lost all income, pretty much, for me and for the company. And at that point, my boss said, you know what? I'm going to have to put you on straight commission because we can't afford you anymore. And I thought to myself, well, if I'm going to be on straight commission, I don't want to work for someone else. I want to work for myself.
Right.
And so my wife had been pushing me for a little bit, basically, to do something, to start my own business. And she said, well, you know what? Might as well try the home inspection business. It seemed like the guy really got you interested, fired up, and so I did that. And at the time, I was also the stay-at-home parent, and I figured, well, I could take all my online classes and different, in-class classes, because we need in Texas about over 300 hours of classes before you can become a professional inspector. And so it was going to require some time. And I just thought to myself, well, the baby's sleeping, I can take the classes while the baby's sleeping and just start the business little by little. And that's how I got into the business.
Cool. If you don't mind me asking, what online classes did you take? Were they was it AHIT or one of those? Or
yes, sir, it was AHIT.
Oh, okay, cool. Hey, a little side note, I'll back up. When I was in college, I took this class. It was like all these tests, all the different Myers-Briggs, all that stuff, all these different tests, every kind of test you can imagine. The class was about testing. And so I took a test, one of those tests to find out, like, what your best occupation is. And you know what? My number one, I was off the charts. I mean, literally, I was literally off the chart. I mean, it has like a thing, and it went off the chart. Nursing home administrator. I don't even know what a nursing home administrator does, but apparently I'd be really good at it. So I don't know. So if this home inspection thing doesn't work out, so there we go.
Well, there you go. Well, in the end, it's a people's job.
Yeah, that's true. Hey, something I'll back up on, too, that you said is you still feel like a kid, and I do, too. But that's the coolest thing about having kids. You get to see the world through their eyes. And you get to go back and do, like, my kids are getting a little bit older now, so I take them to the Smithsonian, and, I've seen all that stuff. And, if I went to see it myself, I'd be bored. But seeing them see it is awesome, and just everything. You getting to see them experience things and learn things, it's awesome. It's like getting to relive your childhood. You know what I mean? It's pretty awesome.
Oh, I agree. Yeah, we went to Disney World last year, and I had more of a blast watching my kids just being in awe of everything they saw than the park in itself.
Yeah.
I mean, it was pretty fun.
They do a great job down there, too. They really do.
They do.
Well, Will, tell me, so I kind of calculated the date there. So when you got finished, from when you finished in your schooling and got started, how long have you been doing inspections, and have you seen some changes in that time?
So I've actually been in business 5 years. Okay. But it took me a couple of years to really make up my mind and get it done. But what have I seen changed? Honestly, in my area, I really haven't seen much change.
Yeah.
It's the guys, the home inspectors. I would say the guy who inspected my house was a one of a kind in the sense that he was printing his report on site.
I was going to say that when you said that. I was like, 5 years ago, man, he'd still be ahead of the curve, but way ahead of the curve.
Yeah,
back then.
Yeah. Guys, so in Texas, we're required to deliver our report within 72 hours.
Right.
So you can have up to 3 days to send your report. I mean, it's ridiculous. And so I thought this guy was pretty amazing when he did his inspection. Well,
right.
Then I got my training, and a few years ago I found my report, and I read the report that he wrote, and I kid you not, it was exactly 6 pages long.
Well, when you said he did it in an hour or hour and a half, I was like, wow. Or I forget what you said, but I was like, really?
Yeah,
your house
hour to hour and a half.
It must have been in great shape.
It was 23 years old at the time, 1,700 square feet. Now, in Texas, 23 years old, that's an old house. That's
right.
like a 150-year-old house in your area. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Right.
And so, again, at the time, I was a first-time home buyer, so I thought he did a great job. And, man, I got the report right away. I could make a decision right away. But so I found his report 6 pages long, and the Texas template is exactly 6 pages. The template in itself.
I'd hate to tell you how many pages our reports are. Our reports are probably about 28, even if I didn't put anything in it.
Exactly.
Ours usually go about 50 or 75, and I know you and I are involved in a program that would frown on that, but I don't know. It works. I know that less is more, but man, I tell you,
that was just too little. I mean, when I was reviewing it again, I just thought, man, there's absolutely no information. The guy wrote a single line in every different system and basically came up with 3 deficiencies, and that was it on a 23-year-old house.
Wow.
And the house actually had foundation problems, which I found out, afterwards, of course. But it is what it is. And the thing is that it made me want to do exactly what he did not do, which was a good home inspection with a good, solid report. So it really motivated me. So I guess, he was ahead of his time in the sense that he wrote the report on site, but man, he just not much material in it. I mean,
Well, and I will say this. Of course, I can't imagine 6 pages. Most of our summaries are longer than that, but the reports have. I mean, I've been doing it since late 90s. I mean, way back then, we did the handwritten reports, and they were 13 pages. And they were a lot, but I mean, we've had reports go well over 100, but depending on how bad the house is, and I know there's some people out there cringing when they hear that, but liability also has, and more liability has been put on us, but at the same time, I think we're doing a much better job. Well, Will, you told me you've hired an inspector and you're growing. Take us back there, because I know there's a lot of guys out there listening. And when I say guys, I mean girls and gals. I just use it all together, guys and gals. What was it like hiring that first one? Because I know a lot of folks struggle with that.
The first one, my experience was nerve-wracking, terrifying. But at the same time, it was a godsend. Mark, who's my first inspector, was actually the cousin of a friend of mine. And at the time, Mark had just finished his schooling and was about to get his license when I was asked if I could talk with him just to give him pointers.
Right.
And I said absolutely yes. I want to be able to help him do exactly or not do what I did, which slowed me way down my first 2 years in business. I mean, I almost did no inspections because I didn't know how to grow it essentially. And so my opinion is the more people you help, the more you'll get helped. And so the guy who didn't want to help me, the inspector who did not want to help me 7 or 8 years ago, I wanted to do the complete opposite of this dude. And I'll talk to anybody who wants to become a home inspector. I'll tell them what I did, how I did, and what not to do.
Right.
So anyway, I told Mark to ride along with me for about a week, see if he likes it. And one day during that week, my phone just did not stop ringing. And this was an empty house. The sellers and the buyers weren't there. And so, I just took my time and took the calls. And then all of a sudden, Mark disappears. And I don't see him until I finish my call. So, I go around the house and I look for him. And finally I find him and I say, well, hey, what's going on? Where were you? And he's like, well, I just went around and I tested all the outlets for you because, I didn't want you to get late for the next inspection, and your phone keeps ringing. And I thought right there, you know what?
Yeah.
He's the guy. I mean, there was no other thing to do but to offer him a job at that point.
Sure.
He had a self-starting serving heart, and that's what I was looking for. And so I told him, you know what, go on in let's do a probation period of 100 inspections, and if at the end you still want to work with me, then we keep on going. You come on full time.
Right.
It was a pretty good experience.
Cool. I've had good experiences and not so good experiences. If we had longer, I'd tell you about both. But it sounds like Mark was a good fit. Well, we're going to change gears here just a little bit, Will. Do you have a success quote you'd be willing to share with us?
Let's see. Yes. One that actually might fit you being an artist. It's life is like photography. You need the negatives to develop.
Oh, that's nice. I like that. Who said that? That's cool.
I have no idea. I searched for it, and it's just anywhere I find it, it's unknown person. And I wish I knew who it was because it's so true. I mean, I don't know anybody who's successful who did not go through negatives or through failures to become better at what they did, or just change gears and do something completely different that actually worked better for them.
Yeah, failure. It's not the opposite of success. It's steps you have to take to get to success. I mean, and everybody, because I love like all those Forbes, I love reading biographies of people, and every one of them's had a couple of failed businesses before they, well, let's say that I'm a buyer or a real estate agent in your market, Will. There are other home inspectors in your market. Why should I hire you? Is there something you do that others don't?
We actually do many things that other people don't do. So, when I started my business, like I said, I did not want to be the guy who inspected my house. I wanted to be it much better. And so I work differently than most companies in the sense that I use the team approach. And so I have Mark and me on site at the same time. And the reason is that puts more eyes on the property and it makes for a faster inspection. And so that allows us to write up a 50-page report if needed and still be able to print it on site for the people. Although we don't print it, we email it. So just that alone, I actually have a funny story. I inspected a story. About 2 or 3 years ago, I inspected an 8,000 square foot house on my own, and it took me, and that was before I implemented a lot of changes that we'll be talking about shortly. But it took me about 6.5 hours to do the inspection, and then I had to go home and write up the report because at the time I was just taking pictures as my notes.
Sure.
And it took me another 3 hours to write up the report.
Right.
And the agent stayed there the entire time, the 6.5 hours she stayed. And I thought, man, that's just miserable for everybody involved.
Right.
And so 2 years later, I had to do the inspection on the exact same property with the exact same agent. She made a killing in that. She sold it twice in 2 years. Go figure.
Wow.
But we did the inspection in 4 hours with the report right there. And she looked at me and she said, wait, is that it? And I said, yeah, that's it. And we found more things than before. You know, the house changed from 2 years ago, and she was a maid. And so being able to do an inspection in half the time and deliver the report right away is something that a lot of people are liking right now.
No, I think that's awesome. That's awesome. Well, I want to add something that I know that you do that a lot of others don't, because I thought about it, and I do it too. Not on all houses, but are you still using your drone? You got the Phantom, right?
Yes. Yep. DJI Phantom 2. So I use it on high roofs that I really cannot access at all.
Right.
In Texas, we're pretty fortunate that we can walk most roofs, even if they're 3-story houses. You typically have a balcony where you can set your ladder up.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's really on the high roofs where I just don't want to kill myself.
Yeah, or slate.
The agents love it. They devour it. They're like, wow, this is amazing. However, it is something that's picking up pretty fast in my neck of the woods as far as professional photographers who use it for to take listing pictures.
Right.
And so they're not, agents are not necessarily new to the thing. They just think that it's cool that a home inspector uses it.
Right. Guess what I just ordered? Don't tell my wife; she's going to kill me. But I just ordered. I just ordered the DJI 3, which is like the DJI 2, but it's supposed to be able to fly indoors. So.
Oh, really?
Yeah, well, because you lose on the 2, you don't have the satellite signal or whatever. And the 3, it does it differently somehow. I think it doesn't need the satellite to stay in one place. So I don't know how that's going to go, but I do a lot of presentations. I got to test it out, but I'm thinking, man, if I could do a presentation, I wouldn't dare fly my 2 in a room because it, chop somebody's ear off or something. That would not be a good presentation at all. But if I could do a presentation with that and just bring it up a little ways and have it level. Oh, man, that would be an awesome presentation. But again, my wife, but, she does the same thing. It's like these boxes from Amazon just show up at my house. And I'm like, so I'm looking on there, what day is this thing coming? I better come home early. All right. I hope she doesn't listen to this podcast. I'll be in trouble. All right. So Will, tell us what do you do in your spare time, and maybe something about you that people don't know.
In my spare time, I'm a family guy, so I spend it with my family. We live about 20, 30 minutes away from the beach, and actually today with my wife, we were just talking about it, and she said, you know what, this year I want to go there as often as possible. And
nice.
So we're going to try to go there, a few times a week if we can. We try to go there, either early in the morning on weekends when nobody's there, and we leave around 12 o'clock when the kids get hungry and it's about nap time for the younger ones. So it works out really well. But, that's pretty much what I do. I mean, I get up so early that as soon as the kids are in bed, I'm just pooped and I just want to go to bed.
I hear you. Well, I appreciate you spending time with us today too. I mean, because for those this is Sunday night for Will, and I'm sure he's had a long weekend. What beach are you close to? Whereabouts? Because you're
Galveston.
Down below Houston. Galveston. Okay.
Yeah, it's in Galveston. So it's not the prettiest of the beaches, but it's still water with sand.
Yeah, oh no, that's all it takes. I'm 4 hours from the beach here, so I'm jealous.
Okay, yeah. Well, a funny thing is, so my oldest son, so I told you that we went to Disney World last year, and we went down and visited a few friends in Florida right by the beach, and so we get into our hotel, and he looks out the window on the balcony, and he sees the water. This is gorgeous blue water, and he looks at the water, and he goes, wow, I've never seen blue water. And I'm like, oh, man, that's how nasty the water looks in Galveston.
Well, I was going to ask you, because before the interview, I went on to your Facebook just to, do a little research. I mean, I know we know each other, but, I wanted to get a little more research. And it said, had you been in New Bern, North Carolina recently? It said you'd been in New Bern?
Yes, I was there. Yeah, that's where my father-in-law lives. And
New Bern is beautiful. New Bern is beautiful.
It's gorgeous. Yep.
Yeah.
So I was there for a wedding.
Oh, okay. What did you go to Tryon Palace or anything while you were there?
No, this time we didn't have time. We just went there for the wedding and flew back, and we had the whole family with us. And so, but the other times that we go out, we try to go to museums, and we also go to to the aquarium where my father-in-law used to dive with the sharks and give the presentations in there. So yeah, we love going out there. It's absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah, I love it. Newbern, and then if you go on down, there's like Emerald Isle, Morehead City, and Beaufort actually I think it's Beaufort here. There's one in South Carolina they call Beaufort. The one here is Beaufort. Beautiful area. But anyway, I'm getting off track. Sorry about that. Well, I squirrel. Well, Will, you know as well as I do that if you do enough inspections, you're going to have an unhappy camper. How do you handle an unhappy camper? Do you have a process, and what's that look like?
Funny you ask. Just recently, I had an unhappy camper, but not by someone who hired us, but by the seller.
Oh yeah. Well, they're all unhappy. They don't like us.
Yeah. Well, in this instance, I could understand. So what happened is we set the house up for the inspection, and I plug my computer in, and a spark comes out and out of the GFCI plug in the kitchen, and it would not reset. And so we found out during the inspection process that not only the refrigerator was on that circuit, but the oven and the microwave was on there as well.
It shouldn't have been, though. It shouldn't have been, but I know it's your fault.
Exactly. And so the guy, the agent, she's flipping out so I got an extension cord, plugged the refrigerator in so that the food wouldn't spoil. Mm-hmm. And I called the agent to let them know what happened so that the sellers would know so that they wouldn't be surprised when they come home. Right. And so anyway, that night my phone just blows off the hook, and it's the agent, the seller's agent, who says that the seller's unhappy and just goes on and on and on. And so finally, I said, well, I'll give the guy a call the next day. And so I did. And I'm on the phone with the guy, and he's at Home Depot, and he's like, oh, yeah, it's the GFCI. I just need to replace it. Nothing bad at all. I guess he thought everything was normal, and GFCIs go bad, and so he just replaced it. So anyway, 2 days later, I received an email from the same guy just blowing me off, like going, you've got to be kidding me. I'm so unhappy with the inspection process. I can't believe this happened. My microwave doesn't work now. And so I'm going, great. He's going to want a microwave. And, my first instinct was to really write a nasty email back and say, you know what, you should not have a 40-amp oven, a 30-amp refrigerator, and a microwave that I don't know how many amps is on it on a 50-amp circuit.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a fire hazard just there. I mean, the whole house was just amateurly wired.
Sure.
And so that was my first reaction, just to go off on him and say, you know what, your house is a danger. But, after talking to a few wise people and cooling down, it taught me a good lesson, and pretty much is to explain the things as clearly as possible and say, you know what, I'm sorry for the damage that occurred. I own my part of the responsibility, but here's also the other part. You've got to own your part of the responsibility. And basically I said, hire an electrician to come out. If he says it's my fault, I would be more than happy to fix the repairs, to pay for the repairs. And I never heard anything back from him.
Well, awesome. I mean, you did exactly the right thing. If the electrician did come back and say, though, I would want to speak to that electrician. But sometimes they will coax them into saying what they want them to say because they're writing them a check.
Oh, for sure.
But a couple of things I want to pull out of your story, because I've had similar type stuff, that you talked to the guy at one point and he was fine, and then 2 days later he's lighting you up again. Couple of things there that, and I'm going through the home buying process myself right now, buying and selling, and I will say this: there is a ton of stuff. Any inspector out there listening, you go to inspect a house, there's a whole lot going on that you don't even know about before you get there. And sometimes, they've got them down on the price. They don't want them coming, or, some people, or maybe one person in the relationship wanted to sell the house and the other one didn't.
Yep.
I mean, there's a whole lot of stuff going on. And, and they're just looking for any little trigger to set off. And, they can't go off on their buyer or their seller because that'll ruin the deal. But see, you're a third party. They can go off on you. So, so if there's any reason they can go off on you, they will. And then the other thing that it made me think, you said 2 days later, I wonder if he got the repair request. Because I've had sellers that just thought we were great until they got that repair request. And then all of a sudden, they went on the offense. everything, you know, and they're, you know, okay, so they get their house ready to sell. They had to paint, they had to carpet, they spent a bunch of money. And now all of a sudden you find all this other stuff, and they're trying to figure out a way that they can get some help getting paid for some of these repairs. I'm just saying what I was
yeah. In this particular case, the people backed out, so he was really unhappy.
Oh, did that happen between the time that he talked to you and the time he said
Well, I found out that it happened like the night of. So, you know, I talked to him, everything was good, and that night they backed out of the contract.
Oh, yeah, so he's pissed, and he has to be pissed off at somebody. Yeah, hey, there you go, there you go. But anyway, I'm not going to say that I don't let it, you know, take it personally. I try not to, but it's hard.
Yeah, it is.
Well, we're going to get into some highs and lows that you've had, but first, let's take a pause for our sponsor.
Are you struggling to make your home inspection business grow? Well, have I got the answer for you. HomeInspectionFlyers.com. At HomeInspectionFlyers.com, you get 5 flyers a month. There are 3 sales flyers and 2 recipe flyers. And you can customize them to exactly what you want. And these are make great flyers when you go to the offices to put in their boxes, especially if you're doing like candy bowls or something along that nature. Like I said, it's 5 flyers a month for $29.99, and they're very creative, and you just put in your information. They come as a publisher file, and you just put in your information, and then you send them off to get printed. You can send them off online, and you can get color copies for, you know, less than 10 cents a copy. It's a great way to go. I went from being a 1-man home inspection firm to a 7-man home inspection firm on this one strategy alone. So try it today. HomeInspectionFlyers.com. Thanks.
Hey, well, I am back here with Will M. because I can't. Yeah, there you go. Well, Will, we're going to go down here for a second, but then we'll come back up. Tell us about a time when you failed. Take us there, and what did you learn from it?
Now, are you talking personal or professional failure?
Probably home inspection related, unless there's something that that was really applicable, or you think the listeners would learn from it.
Well, it is. Well, interestingly, it's kind of both because it is related to my home inspection business. So where I failed the most is really I failed my wife in the sense that we started having kids, and her dream was to really be the stay-at-home mom and be able to take care of the babies from 0 to 3 years old. Beyond that, they start getting dirty and they talk back, and so she's not as what's the right way to put it? She's not as super excited about being at home with them at that point. Although she would, and she loves them, but really, she really wanted to be at home from 0 to 3. Mm-hmm. And when I started the home inspection business, I didn't know how to do it, and so it took me forever to really get things going, and I failed her in the sense that, I had to be the stay-at-home dad, and she had to keep on doing her job so that we could still, put food on the table. Right. And that, to this day, it breaks my heart. I mean, because I can never give that back to her. Even with this 4th kid coming along, even though the business is really booming, all I can give her is pretty much more months at home, but I can't give her the full, you can stay at home and be with the kid for the next 3 years unless I really speed things up. And so, I really started working on my business way, way too late. And that's my biggest failure in life right now.
Well, you know what, though? You did it, though. You could still be doing that import thing you were talking about. And you know what? You could lose that job today with 4 kids. And you know what? You did it. Now that, you know what I mean? You don't work for the man anymore. You are the man. You know what I'm saying? So I wouldn't get too down on yourself, man. You long term, you've done well by her and your kids. Well, Will, go ahead.
I was going to say, I'm about to do something really weird that not many people are going to get, but my daughter just walked in and I need to talk to her for a couple seconds. Qu'est-ce qu'il y a, ma chérie?
Okay.
OK. Va au lit et dès que j'ai fini au téléphone, je vais venir te voir. OK, ma chérie? Bonne nuit. Sorry about that.
That's all right. So you talk to your kids in French? That's awesome, man.
Yes, I only speak to them in French.
That is awesome. Do you use that in your home inspection? Man, you should have that niche. I mean, any French person buys a house, they should use you guys for sure.
I have a couple French-speaking agents who now exclusively uses me just because of that connection. We do have a lot of expats around here in the petrochemical industry, but I haven't tapped into that just yet.
Oh man, I would find out where the French people hang out, and I would put my cards or something. They would know. Definitely, that niche you should dominate. I have tried. I want to hire a Spanish-speaking inspector, but I can't find one. I even tried to go back and learn Spanish. You know, I took it in high school, but I didn't pay attention.
Yeah.
It's hard to learn it when you're 46. Well, Will, on the other end, tell us about a time we talked about, you know, at the time when you failed. Tell us about an I made it moment or a I've come a long way moment. Have you had one of those?
Yeah, when I hired my third employee, that was the I made it moment. So I only have one inspector, but I have a marketing person and an office manager. And so when I hired the marketing person who I had been looking for about 6 months, that was the moment where I went, okay, now I actually have a business who can almost run on its own if I'm gone for a little bit, because I've got the marketing person doing her job, I've got the office person doing her job, and then I've got the inspector who can still go out on his own. Even though we do the team approach, every now and then he still has to go on his own, or I have to go and one or the other goes on vacation.
Right.
And that was the moment where I thought, well, you know what? Now I'm getting it. Now now I just need to hire more people.
Right. You know, I had the similar I made it moment. You know, I was a one-man shop, and I hired a few people, and, you know, people would always call in. They got to have Preston, like, you know, they got to have Will. And then when the stuff, it was a bittersweet thing. Then the calls started coming in, and I got to have Chip, or, you know, I got to have, you know, one of the other guys. And then it was like I started fading out on purpose, you know, pulling myself out. But, you know, I was like, hey, I want them to want me. But then again, no. I need to be doing, you know, I need to be running a business instead of, you know, constant. And I still do some inspections, but I know the feeling. Well, Will, do you have a favorite book you could recommend to our listeners? And what is it about the book you like?
Yeah, right now I'm actually studying The One Thing from Gary Keller.
Right.
And I'm really liking it because it's made me stop and think. I mean, you know, every book you kind of think, you know, you get things in and out from certain books, but this one, I'm really having to stop and think what I need to focus on.
Right.
And, you know, I have a hard time focusing sometimes because I see so many things that need to get done, and I'm trying to do it all, and that's why I started hiring people, because there are things I don't like to do, I don't want to do, and so I figured might as well pay someone who's much better at it than me,
right.
And try to move on a little faster.
Right.
But this one, you know, I get up at 4:30 in the morning, I do my workout, and after that, you know, I study the book, and it's been really good to just be able to sit down and just focus on the business. And that book really helped me do that.
No, it's an excellent book. It's a great read. It's a great read. Well, Will, we talked a little bit about, you know, a few changes, although you said you hadn't seen too many. If you had to predict the future, what would you predict how home inspections might change in the future?
It's going to change, I think, in a couple ways. The first one is we're going to find and see more and more multi-inspector firms.
Right.
As of right now, I've got two big ones in my backyard, or maybe I should say I'm in their backyard.
Right.
Two great guys running them. You know, Gordon Fox, he's running a ginormous company out there, and then Greg Bryan, who's also running a huge business out there. But what I like about it is that I can talk to them, and you know, we can just sit down and have a coffee and talk about what works and what doesn't work. And so I'm seeing a lot of real business owners taking over and developing a business and not just a bunch of technicians out there trying to make a living.
Yeah,
So
and it's and nothing against it. I know there's a lot of single one-man operators listen to this, and that's a great business model. The tough thing is, though, it's hard to do all three parts of the business. You know, you've got to market, you've got to do the inspections, and you've got to do some administrative. And it is really, really hard to do all three for one person. It's really, really tough.
Absolutely.
Well,
go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. I was going. If you had.
I was going to say what drove me to the multi-inspector was that I had no life.
Right.
And you know, I was doing the inspections, coming home, writing reports until 2 a.m., getting up the next morning, and it was just the same process over and over again. And I didn't see my family. And the only way, you know, was to either reduce the number of inspections I did during the day, make less money, or figure out a different way to where, you know, once I started implementing the different strategies and hiring people, all of a sudden, you know, I come home, it's 5:30, I don't have any more work to do. I get to spend time with my family, and I love it.
Yeah, no, I went through those days. You know, I do 3 inspections a day. I was up till late writing reports and get up the next day, same thing. And, you know, I was making good money, but I was just so burned out, and I couldn't go on vacation. And, yeah, I was just telling my wife, I was like, I'm making good money, but I hate this. I hate this.
Yep.
Until I figured out, you know, how to work it a different way. Well, Will, one thing that bothers me is contractors who well, let me start off with this. Have you ever been thrown under the bus by a contractor? And I know the answer before I ask you. How do you handle it, and do you have any ideas how we could, I don't think we'll ever prevent it, but at least, you know, control it to a degree or something? I mean, or what's your thoughts on that?
So, yes, I've been thrown under the bus by a plumber on a water heater issue. And the way that I dealt with it was I pretty much, you know, I didn't talk to the plumber. Maybe I should have, but I just explained, you know, as clear as I could to the buyers, this is what happened, this is what we found, and there was no other way to figure that the 1-year-old water heater was going to burst. And it was just brand new water. So, you know, but I can only control myself in what I say.
Right.
And so what I've started doing, because when I first started the business, I threw the contractors under the bus all the time. Because honestly, without contractors, we wouldn't have a job.
Sure.
You know, we're going around and finding their deficiencies, or, you know, homeowners doing their own little thing.
Right.
So in the beginning, I was doing what they do, and then I learned, you know what, I wouldn't want anybody to dog me the way that I was doing it in the beginning. And so I can only control what I say. So, you know, when I talk to the buyers or the sellers, whoever's hiring us to do an inspection, and who tell me, well, how come the contractor did it this or that way, all I say is, I don't know. You know, maybe they didn't quite know, or maybe it was the previous seller, or I don't know. But, you know, we're just here to inspect and tell you what's wrong with it. And I don't have any intention on saying anything bad about anybody. And so that's the only way that I know how to handle it. How to prevent it to happen, you know, to us. Just be as clear as possible in your report. This is what I saw. This is how it was at the time of inspection, and that's pretty much it.
No, I'm the same way. I am the same way, and I believe in karma. I mean, you know, and you know, here's something else for all the listeners out there, and you may have come across this. There's going to come a time when a agent calls you about something that a home inspector did, not you, and you know, so there's an opportunity there for you to throw another inspector under the bus. Do not do it. Do not do it.
Yeah.
You know, if anything, you know, I've defended my brethren as much as possible. Even, I mean, some of this stuff is like, you know, they couldn't have seen that, you know. I try to explain that to them. And then some things, you know, it probably, you know, between us, it probably was their screw up, but I don't say that. I just say, you know, why don't you call them and talk to them, you know, and especially if I know them, I say, you know, I know that guy. Why don't you give him a call? He's a pretty reasonable fellow. Give him a call and see if y'all can work it out. But, you know, do not throw your brethren under the bus, because first of all, it's the wrong thing to do. And second of all, sooner or later, they're going to inspect the house that you inspected.
Exactly.
I mean, it makes the profession look bad. It makes us all look bad. Well, another thing that kind of bothers me, Will, is, and I'm wondering if you got this. I'm sure you do in your market. I hate contractors that use fear to sell stuff. I think mold contractors sometimes, not all of them, but some of them are the worst. And, some of these duct cleaning guys, some of them, not all of them. And sometimes HVAC contractors can be this way too, where they come out and, basically, oh, your house has got mold, but you got kids, you do what you want to do, and scares the heck out of them. And okay, so if they really do have, but some of these guys don't even test, and they're saying this. I mean, did you do a test? Is there stachybotrys? Is there, I don't know. I've just had houses I've inspected that were dry and dusty. I come out of there, and the mold guy comes in there and scares the hell out of the people. Yeah. And and the $7,000 mold remediation that I personally didn't think that they needed, they never did an air test. They just scared the people. Do you have that sort of thing in your market? And
I had a lady, actually, again, she contacted me. So I did the inspection 2 years ago for this lady, and she moved in about 3 months later, and so I told her that, the AC needed to be checked out. There were issues with it. So anyway, she didn't get it done.
Right.
So when she moves into the house, she starts seeing, stuff growing on the register. So she calls this company where she found a flyer on the door, and the company comes out and basically says, you've got mold everywhere, blah, 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 and scares her into paying right away. And so she gave them, I think it was $1,500 to start cleaning, and then they're like, oh, well, we're going to need more to keep on doing the job. And so at that point, stopped everything, kicked them out the door, and gave me a call and said, okay, well, and I thought at first that she was going to call me to get money from me, but she's like, you know what, I need you to come back to the house and just tell me if I'm over paranoid or, what's happening. Did they take me for every penny that I had or what? And so I went back out there and I looked at the stuff and I said, you know what, yeah, they're just trying to get as much money out of you as possible. And here are the different companies I would personally use on my house. Give them a call, have them come out, do proper tests, and if it comes out with, mold or whatnot, then get it remediated at that point. But, I mean, the people she had originally hired came out and they just started spraying around the registers, and I was pretty much it. Charged her $1,500. And, it's disgusting, and it ticks me off that people will do that. Again, it's really hard to prevent it from happening.
Yeah. Well, it's good in your case that the lady was, I mean, she did come. I mean, I've had that same thing happen where they just scared them so bad that they I don't know, it's like they didn't come back to common sense. You know what I mean? They went into that mode of, especially if they got a new child or something, and it's just, once they scared them, you can't bring them back sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Well, one more thing, and I'm sorry I'm holding you up, Will. I know you got to get up at 4, but we got just a couple more questions. We'll be done. I really appreciate it, and I know the listeners appreciate it. I want to ask your opinion on one more thing. I'm bothered by what I see on forums sometimes. There's some people on forums that are great. They're willing to help, but there's also some chest thumpers out there. I don't know if you've been on any of them, but I'm not real. I don't know. I don't know if it could ever be cleaned up, and I'm not saying that we're a bunch of Boy Scouts, but some of the stuff I see on forums bothers me, and it makes the profession look bad. Do you have any opinions on that?
Yeah, in the sense that I just stopped going on the forums, that says enough. The forums are a really good place for home inspectors to go around and learn. Unfortunately, you always have a few bad apples who are there, and that they spend too much time online and not enough time inspecting.
Right.
And so they, unfortunately, it's often the agent haters and newbie haters, and it's sad. It's too bad.
Right.
I've had to take a step back because I saw, I was on these forums for my first 2 or 3 years when my business was really slow. And I really started getting that mentality that, home inspectors really are against agents or against sellers or against whoever, and we can't trust them, and it's a two-sided thing where you've got the agents versus the home inspectors, and no, that's not how it is. And you have bad apples in the real estate world, just like you have bad apples in the home inspection world.
Right.
And
right.
all we can do is, when I do go back online, I'll just try to help as many people as I can. But I tend to avoid any discussions that's going to get heated or is going to go down go down south. So.
Yeah, I've seen some, and it's that whole pig and mud thing. What is it? You wrestle with a pig and mud. It just gets you dirty, and the pig likes it. But I will say there are some really great people on there that will help as well.
Absolutely.
Well, let's brighten it up. We just got a couple more questions. Now, Will, keep in mind this is a G-rated show with this question. What's the craziest, wildest, or weirdest thing you've ever found on a home inspection?
I'm glad you specified the G-rated show.
At least I told iTunes that, so they put it in my category or whatever.
Not necessarily the weirdest, we do find a lot of weird stuff. But the one fun one. So another thing that we do is we use the infrared thermal imaging on all of our houses that we inspect.
Right.
And so I had this one client called. I was doing a warranty inspection on this expensive house, and he kept saying, it's always a lot warmer in my master bedroom. And I don't know, we've had the HVAC tech come out multiple times, and they changed the thermostat and fixed the ACs, and it's still super hot. And I just started scanning the ceiling, and there was no insulation whatsoever up there.
Oh, wow.
And go ahead.
Well, was it like I'm surprised they never saw it from the attic, or was it like kind of a small, like you couldn't really get in that part or something from the attic, or?
Yeah, in that instance, there was no access to the attic part, and so they never blew insulation up there, and they would have never known had we not used infrared technology.
We scanned one in a master closet. We're scanning the ceiling, and all of a sudden there's this hot spot. I mean, like crazy, like what the heck is going on there? I mean, so like this super hot spot. And so the house is like 15 years old or something. And so we tracked it back and did some, and it was like one of those super hard places to get to. But I got up there. You know what it was? It was a duck that went over. They never cut out the register. So it was buried in insulation. So here's this duck just blowing on the back side of that the drywall there. And it has been doing that for 15 years. And it wasn't visible, but oh my gosh, the heat was on. It's like, and again, without the thing, and you didn't even really know that it was there, because when we got up in the attic, it was hard to get over there, and insulation kind of buried the duct, so. Yeah. But they never cut out the register. It was just blowing on the back side of that. It's crazy.
Yeah, this happened to me on an 8-year-old house, expensive house also, except it was a return, and so for 8 years it had been sucking in attic air and insulation around it.
Yeah, I know. I was like, I hated to tell the sellers, but I was like, you guys have been paying a lot more than you needed to for your energy. Well, we're winding down here, Will. Do you have a training or internet or marketing or like an app or anything like that you'd be willing to share with everyone that's helpful? Or what? Or something you use, an app or anything you use on the internet that helps you out a lot?
Well, as far as my work goes, man, we use a ton of apps all the time. My reporting app, I love it. It's Home Inspector Pro. That's what gets the job done on site. I love it.
Right.
If the home inspector doesn't go mobile, he's just going to eat his life away. And that's the way that I see it nowadays. And so I would highly recommend any inspector out there to use a mobile app. And it doesn't have to be Home Inspector Pro. It can be any other, software provider out there, just as long as it works really well. That would be the best advice as far as inspections. And as far as training, to be honest, Internachi has been really good
Mm-hmm.
for online training, especially when you're a busy guy or girl and you can't, you don't have time to go to class training. So that's been really good for me.
Cool. If you get a chance, if you haven't listened to it, I interviewed Nick Gromyko. If you get a chance, go back and listen to it. That was a good interview. It's pretty good.
Will do.
Yeah. Well, I think we got like 4 more questions here. Will, what is the best part of your job and why, and what's the worst part of your job and why?
The best part of my job is to be able to serve people. I love serving and helping people, and I love not only serving the buyers who provide us the money to hire people. I love serving them, but I really, really love serving my employees and being able to give them a job and, helping them put bread on the tables for their families. That's something that I have at heart, being able to develop a work environment where they can thrive and support their families.
Cool. Well, Will, is there anything you're working on right now that you're stoked or excited about?
Yes, I'm working on hiring 2 more inspectors.
Cool.
I need to get those in.
Well, yeah, we talked a little bit about that on the pre-interview, and let me know. I'll help you any way I can. Well, Will, just 2 questions here. If you had to move to a new city equal to the size of Houston, which there's probably only about 3 or 4 cities, that could even possibly fit that. That's a huge city. But anyway, basically, if you had to start all over in a new city, but you had all your same equipment, all your same knowledge, room and board taken care of, but you had $5,000 basically to start marketing. So what's the best use of that $5,000 your first week to try to get some business going?
Oh man, the cheapest, stupidest thing ever. I'd get candy bowls out to the different real estate agents because I'm just not that type of personality who knows how to go in and strike a conversation that easily. But I would be going to every single major offices there are out there and just try to basically tell them, hey, I'm in town, I exist, and I offer the best services.
Cool. No, that's good. Well, I think we're. One last question. Is there anything that I didn't ask you that I should have?
Not that I know of. I mean, you got pretty deep into the conversation.
I try to go in and analyze. Now, where were you on the night of? No, I'm just kidding. Well, Will, you have been more than gracious with your time. We really appreciate it. And I want to tell all the listeners out there too. You can listen to this on iTunes, a lot of those podcasts are Podcruncher and Stitcher Radio too, as well as go to the internet. On the website, thesuccessfulhomeinspector.com, and listen to Will and some of the other interviews. But Will, you've been more than gracious with your time. Do you have a Facebook business page we can get you some likes on for you?
Yes, sir. It's Redfish Inspections.
Cool.
On
well,
Facebook.
if you guys got some value out of Will's interview, and you did, go and give the guy some likes, and I think that helps him with his search engine optimization. And if there's any way, if somebody wanted to get in touch and learn more about you, is there a way they could get in touch with you, Will?
Absolutely. They can either email me at will@redfishinspections.com, or they can just give us a call at the office, 713-568-8184.
All right, cool. Will, thank you so much for your time and all the gold nuggets you dropped. And I know you've got to go work out at 4 o'clock in the morning, so I better let you go. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Preston. My pleasure.
Thanks, Will. Me too. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for checking out the Successful Home Inspector podcast. You can find show links at thesuccessfulhomeinspector.com. Check out the website for special offers, information, and other resources. Thanks again for listening to the Successful Home Inspector podcast. And remember to check back for new episodes. The Successful Home Inspector podcast is brought to you by Preston Sandlin and Home Inspection Carolina.